As a consumer, you expect the highest quality product for your dollar. You assume that the food you purchase is prepared under sanitary conditions and that the establishment where you made your purchase has passed the many regulations of the food industry. But as an employee of the food industry, you see firsthand where many of these regulations are ignored. So, what makes the place where you eat or shop any different from the place where you work? Nothing. And that's something to be concerned about. Because, as a consumer, you can legally hold the manufacturer or handler responsible for damages resulting from products you purchase. And, as a food handler, you can be held responsible by the consumer. Sanitation is one of the most neglected jobs in any establishment. As a result, severe health problems can occur. The Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938 applies to any facility which holds, transports, or sells human foods or ingredients across state lines. This includes retail establishments. The law states that food shall be considered contaminated if it contains an added poisonous, filthy, putrid, or decomposed substance, or if it has been prepared, packed, or held under unsanitary conditions where it may become contaminated. Contamination need not occur for you to be in violation. The mere presence of unsanitary conditions in the eyes of a health inspector is enough to result in a citation. A violation as obvious as smoking is frequently disregarded by employees as well as management. Ask yourself, would you want to eat out of an ashtray? Head coverings are another violation. Hats are not meant to be stylish. They're meant to protect the customer and, in turn, yourself from a potential lawsuit. Health inspections are always unannounced and always seem to come at the wrong time. The inspector is usually a local official with only one job: to assure public health and safety. Anything in violation will be recorded, and you will most certainly be cited. An inspection does not have to be a threatening experience. Inspectors are human too, but they have the right to inspect your facility. They have the right to inspect records of materials received or shipped across state lines. This includes raw materials as well as finished products. Any other records like production formulas, customer complaints, or quality control information is out of their jurisdiction, and you can deny their request for it. An inspection can be triggered by a customer complaint. Inspectors are not required to tell you this. However, they may ask if you've had any. It's advisable to keep a complaint file that lists complaints and how they were resolved. This shows the inspector that you take complaints seriously, but they have no right to examine the file. Inspectors are allowed by law to collect samples of raw materials and finished product. It's a good idea to take a sample of your own so you can have it analyzed at an independent laboratory. If an inspector removes a sample, he will usually offer to pay for it, accept his payment, and provide a receipt. Giving it to him at no charge can look very suspicious. Collecting samples does not include taking photographs. If an inspector asks, politely tell him it's against company policy. He will honor your refusal. A manager should always accompany an inspector. Treat them as you would like to be treated. And if they do find a violation, correct it immediately if possible. And be sure the inspector is aware of the correction. This is bacteria. It is the unseen enemy in all food contamination. Bacteria thrives and grows very rapidly between the temperatures of 45 and 140 degrees. Temperatures below 45 degrees slow bacteria's rate of growth. Heat above 140 degrees begins to kill the bacteria. That's why potentially hazardous foods like milk, cheese, salads, meats, and custards must be kept below 45 degrees. A shallow pan, 4 inches or less, will help keep salads at the proper temperature. And all hot food tables must be kept above 140 degrees. Contamination is the result of poisonous toxins produced by most bacteria. That's what gives sour milk, garbage, and spoiled meats an odor. It's also what causes food poisoning when contaminated foods are eaten. All foods already carry bacteria which are destroyed when the food is cooked. That means any uncooked food is in danger of cross-contamination. Cross-contamination can occur between someone's lunch and raw or finished foods in the same refrigerator, or from eating while preparing food. Bacteria from the chicken can easily be transferred to this man's sandwich, causing him to get very sick. This is cross-contamination. Raw chicken is a carrier of Salmonella bacteria, a prime food contaminator. By not washing his hands and working on a different surface, the chef is now cross-contaminating the sandwich with the Salmonella bacteria. He is actually poisoning the person who eats that sandwich. Contamination is especially critical between processed and raw foods as well as different types of meats. So it's important not to use the same utensils or work area when preparing a different food, unless they've been cleaned first. Here's another method of cross-contamination. Throughout the day, your hands come in contact with more bacteria-carrying objects than you realize. Your hands become like magnets, attracting all types of bacteria to your skin. And with one touch, the bacteria is transferred onto the food that you or someone else will eat. Cross-contamination can occur at any time. That's why your hands must be clean all of the time. Nowhere is this more common than in the bathroom. Bacteria thrive here, with populations running in the billions. Watch as this person unknowingly transfers billions of bacteria with each touch. Even soap doesn't stop contamination because it is contaminated in the process. Just like a surgeon, you must keep your hands as germ-free as possible. Foot-operated toilets and elephant ear basin handles will help, along with soap dispensers instead of soap bars. Be sure to work up a good lather on both sides of your hands as well as your forearms, and get in those fingernails. Bacteria is not limited to your palms. Now that your hands are clean, don't recontaminate them by touching dirty objects. Use your elbows to operate the faucet, and never use reusable towels. They are a haven to billions of growing bacteria. Paper towels can be used, but be sure they are thrown away, or better yet, use a hot air dryer. Your hands should be cleaned every time you return to your workstation. Disposable gloves will prevent any other bacteria from reaching the food. Change them each time you handle a different item to avoid cross-contamination. Most importantly, no one should be allowed to work if they have open sores or boils, sore throats, or other communicable diseases. Never work with Band-Aids or other bandages. These are perfect breeding grounds for bacteria. And never store food or food containers near open sewer lines, toilets, or in areas exposed to water. Humans are not the only things which can carry and transfer bacteria. The air is alive with bacteria and other microscopic particles capable of drifting over great distances. One cough or sneeze is enough to cross-contaminate the work area around you. Billions of particles from your lungs are forced out at over 100 miles per hour. Bacteria from a sneeze are capable of contaminating objects several feet away. Other materials serve as great breeding grounds for these airborne bacteria. Care must be taken to keep these materials dry and as clean as possible when stored. Another airborne contaminator is mold. Mold spores are tiny seeds that are ever present in air. They are so tiny that 25,000 of them could fit on the head of a pin. Here, with time-lapse photography, we can see the mold beginning to grow. It grows as a tangled mass spreading out in all directions while building layer upon layer on itself. As it grows, mold produces new spores, which are ready to drift off and contaminate other items. Mold grows best in damp areas. That's why mold will quickly grow on bread that was bagged while still warm. The condensation on the inside of the bag speeds the growth of the spores, allowing them to take root on the bread. Any item found with mold should be immediately removed from the building, and don't open any packaged product containing mold. As you can see here, it only takes a light touch to send the new mold spores flying into the air to contaminate another area. It's very easy for you and the inspector to find evidence of another major carrier of bacteria: rodents and insects. Any hint of these pests may be a criminal offense by which you and your company can be prosecuted. The most common rodents are mice. The common mouse is only about 3 inches long, not including his tail, and weighs about an ounce. It lives only about 1 year, but in that year it can produce 5 litters. Mice live in very small, hidden areas. They tend not to move unless disturbed or hungry. They need very little water, and their travel route is usually predictable. Mice tend to move along walls and have no difficulty climbing. To eliminate rodents, place unbaited traps at right angles to the wall. Traps should be checked daily, or at least weekly along less active routes. And keep records of traps and their activity. Dead animals should be carefully removed with gloves. Deposit them outside, away from the building. When travel routes cannot be determined, traps baited with peanut butter or gumdrops can be used, since these items do not spoil, but still attract mice. Bacteria-carrying insects are common around unsanitary areas. Insects like cockroaches, ants, silverfish, beetles, moths, wasps, and flies are looked upon with suspicion by the health inspector. Insects like to hatch and grow in undisturbed environments like dirty storage areas, dusty shelf corners, and puddles of stagnant water. Of particular concern are flies. These insects carry billions of microscopic bacteria on their tiny hairs. Also, as a fly feeds, it discharges saliva into its food through a small siphon. Enzymes in the saliva quickly break down the food, enabling it to be sucked back up. However, bacteria carried by the fly is left behind to breed and multiply. Flies are attracted to decaying food and feces by their odors. These and other fermenting materials form perfect breeding grounds for flies. A female fly will lay from 300 to 500 eggs at breeding time. In a day or so, these eggs hatch into tiny, legless worms called maggots. They develop into full adults in 10 to 25 days. After only 2 days as an adult, flies can reproduce again. That's a lot of flies. The presence of flies is a dead giveaway to the inspector that there are unsanitary conditions somewhere. However, when eliminating these pests, pesticides must be used with care to prevent contaminating the foods you are trying to protect. So, what does all of this mean? It means that if unsanitary conditions are present in your operation, you are in danger of transporting harmful bacteria to yourself and to your customers. The result is food poisoning. Of the bacteria that we've been talking about, Salmonella and the Staphylococcus bacteria are the most dangerous, since they can directly cause severe food poisoning. Food poisoning is the result of eating bacteria-laden products. Severe intestinal imbalances occur, and in extreme cases, food poisoning can result in death. Eggs and other dairy products should be processed and stored in plastic or stainless steel containers. Don't store eggs or salads in their original containers unless they are plastic, because cans contain seams which are a big hiding place for bacteria. Broken eggs are critical since they are vulnerable to the harmful Salmonella. Staphylococcus bacteria like to grow in salads and custard fillings that are improperly refrigerated. And both of these bacteria love to prey upon any improperly handled raw meat. Once any item is exposed to contamination, you are fighting an uphill battle that is easy to lose. The important thing is not to let the battle begin. Good manufacturing practices are the key. Remember, you are personally responsible for any problems that a customer encounters from a product which you prepared for them.